Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Carl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Carl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's been a minute. The road dog is back with none other than the man, the myth, the interviewing legend, Carl Bryan. Buddy.
Yo, road dog. How are you, my brother? Doing good?
You know, I am good, and I'm gonna jump right into this because in the pre-show you were so like, oh, you know, I'm out just surfing with the dolphins and blah blah blah. So I just, buddy, I gotta feed off of this. I gotta, for lack of a better way of putting it, I gotta ride that Zen wave of yours, and you like hit me with some Zen magic, my friend.
I was actually surfing with a dolphin a couple of days ago and a couple sharks this morning. No joke. Two of them.
Speaking of sharks, that's actually, remember the Harvey McKay book, Swim with the Sharks, They'll Be Eaten Alive? What a fantastic book that was.
Oh, there we go. Shoots. Dropping the book titles. I like it. So what do you want me to do? Is just drop some Zen magic?
Just drop that Zen all over the place. Drop it like it's hot, buddy. Let's go.
What am I going to say? In an email I sent out recently to do, not AI, by the way. I write every one of my emails, and maybe I'm crazy, but it's like a journal for me. A little bit of fun, a little bit of jokes coming through. Don't pretend like you're not impressed if you're listening and you're reading them. But what did I say? I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm sure to be right is wonderful. But to not have an opinion is literally elite, right? So just to not have an opinion, it's like there's a presidential election as we air this or whatever, record this again. You know what I mean? What happens? And I don't know that you should not have an opinion. I don't know that's something as important as that. But that being said, I am going to tell you that some people are going to get really, 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 really worked up. And then some people are not going to have an opinion. I would challenge you to decide which one you'd rather be. And I think if you're listening to this, there's a really good chance you'd rather be on the side of just not giving a rat's backside. Because I promise you, no matter who gets elected, no matter where you live, who gets elected, and that's, locally, and that's provincially or statewide or, nationally, it is not going to affect you that much, I assure you. And if you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, it's going to be affected so much, again, you might fall into that category of somebody who's taking this way too seriously. So you might want to zen out a little bit on that one and just drop. The biggest attachment that you have, all misery comes from attachment, right? Okay, and one of the biggest attachments you have is to your opinions. And that may or may not be a mic drop moment for you, but your biggest like all misery is in attachment, right? Again, that's, a Buddha quote, right? And if that's true, and I believe it to be, your number one attachment, it's not the car, it's not the business, it's not the money, it's not the marriage, it's not the attention, it's not the status. Your biggest attachment is your opinion. So to be able to drop those might be helpful. And I would say it would actually be elite. And also, look, what you say to yourself about yourself, what you say to yourself about yourself when you're by yourself is really, really important. And I want you to think about how, that inner language, right? Like Road Dog, we've talked about that so many times in different ways. I don't know, it's not, like a verbatim type thing, but we talk about it in a roundabout way. That inner talk is important. Remember, like I could introduce you to a beautiful girl, right? A beautiful woman. And what does everybody say about her? Oh my God, you're so beautiful. 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 And you know what? She doesn't see herself as beautiful in any way, shape, or form, right? Why? because the inner talk trumps anything external times a million, right? The same way that the guy with the PhD, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart. And then when he looks at his bank balance, he can't get away from that. And it's not very impressive. And he says to himself, I'm not very smart, right? So again, so what you say to yourself matters. What others say to you has very little worth, weirdly. And you gotta turn that around. And how do you do it? You just, again, that inner talk, what you're saying to yourself, matters. Um, like, again, Road Dog, we talked about this, but I quit drinking, and I'm still on my streak, and I haven't touched I don't even know where I'm at. I'm intentionally not really. I'm not gonna, marry myself to, like I'm a non-drinker and like counting the days, but let's just call it 3 months approximately. Um, One of the biggest attachments that I had was that it's going to be really, really hard for me not to drink because I fancy myself as a bit of a fun guy, and I'm loud, and not, you know what I mean. I like to go and have a few beers, right? Road Dog and I have done it 1,000 times, and we have some really, really good laughs. And the attachment, the opinion that I had is that I'm not going to be as much fun, and then if I'm not going to be as much fun, I'm not going to have my buddies, and my buddies matter to me, and a big, my identity. A big part of my identity is I'm one of the boys, right? I grew up in a hockey dressing room, and I just fancy that. I like that. That matters to me, right? Which is okay, right? But I had this thing, and I had this opinion, this attachment to drinking and being, the good time guy. And you know what I found? I've been to tons of parties, and I've been out, like this weekend where we record. I do a couple parties this weekend, and I drank pineapple juice as my thing, and I order two at a time because that's weird, but that's what I do because I drink it too damn fast, and I got to go back to the damn bar, and it's just a pain in the butt. A beer tend to last a little longer. But anyway, so yeah, I drinking pineapple juice, and I had a great time, and you know what I mean? And I went home early, by the way, and I got up and I went surfing in the morning, and it all worked out. So I don't know. That's me. That may listening to that may or may not help you, may or may not provide some value for your coaching clients, but those attachment to those opinions and that's actually more of a story than an opinion, by the way. So attachment to your story, your client's attachment to their story, ugly. So shoots. One of the things, like what you say to yourself about yourself matters. And I had this note in my phone, and I happened to read it this morning. But it said, I don't want to be lucky to be my daughter's dad. I want to be worthy to be my daughter's dad. And that, trying to be worthy, being her father. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, maybe that's next level kind of thought. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's the kind of conversation that I'm having with myself. I think maybe trying to be lucky enough, feeling like I'm lucky to be her dad might be a very, very different conversation than, look, I want to be worthy to be her dad. And I want her to be very, very proud of me and very proud of what I do and very proud of, my activities to do. So I don't know. Maybe lame, maybe cool. So look, I'll end with this, Shoots. Having a okay, when thinking of zenning out, again, just letting it's about, like, for me, and again, it might be different for other people, and that's cool. But like zenning out is about having less, wanting less, being attached to less. So like instead of most people will have a want more strategy. Like I would use a dream board as an example. Think of a dream board, and what do you got on it? You might have the car, and you got the house, and you got the beach and the holiday. Maybe it's the wife, and maybe it's whatever it is, right? You got this thing, and then a want less strategy. So here's an idea. Make a list of all the things that you want, right? Car, house, money, bank balance, etc. And then put together a game plan to, and rather than, you know what I mean, like having not a to-do list, but like a list of things that you want. Have a list of things that you want, and then instead of making a plan to get them, make a plan to detach from them. Detach. Why do you want the car? Right? Like it's really, I would dare say that there's a chance, and not always, let's go 80-20, that it's about what other people think. It's a status thing, right? So you know what? Do you really need the car? Right? Is that a really good use of the 250 grand, or maybe it's 100 grand, whatever the number is? It's the boat. Do you really need the boat? Or maybe do you know what I mean? What's the plan to not want the boat? And maybe what you could do is plan to rent the boat once a month for 12 months, and then do the math and go, oh, wow, that's significantly less money And by the way, if you rent a boat and get to hand it back, is that less headaches than owning the boat and having to clean it, having to insure it, having to park it, having to use it, having to turn it on, having to repair it, to do. So having a want less strategy versus a dream board, and then what you do is you make a list of all the things that you want, and then instead of making a plan to get them, making a plan to detach from them. And by the way, Road Dog, and you know, again, I've had all the cars and you know what I mean. I've had big houses with elevators and all that stuff. So I don't want to pretend like I'm the guy that's just zenning out and I'm the monk running around with my ponytail. That's just not who I have been. But I can tell you, in my zenning out, I am far more about how I'm going to let go of all these things than want them in the future. Road Dog, I'm going to throw it back to you, and I'm scared of what you're going to say. But anyway, that's it. I don't know.
Okay,
A want less strategy, man, is powerful.
If you want less house, I'm happy to to take your house from you here locally. Not a problem, buds. Anytime. You can leave the car in the garage too. That's okay. You'll definitely can do that too. Dear Lord, what have you turned into? Like, is it the amount of like pineapple juice hitting the brain? I don't even know what's going on. Who is this guy? Anyways, can I bring this back on the rails? Like, I don't even know. Hey, what you are making some good points there in terms of basically self-management, right? Like in terms of your thinking and all that sort of stuff. So, what if you're working with a client and they really suck at managing themselves, right? Like they're just a gong show. Like, do you have some sort of a framework or like just an easy way to help them or just sort of direct them at all?
I know what you mean, and this would be this. The more if you introduce me to somebody who's super successful in business, there's a really good chance that they fall under the what's the saying? The crazy ones make all the money. Again, when I do business coaching mastery, I mean, that sign is literally right up there on stage with me. And I believe that to be true. And I believe that to be probably your experience. If you kind of reverse engineer the people you know in your life that have made a ton of money, they might fall on the quote unquote crazy side. So managing themselves would not be a strength of the individual I just described. So the starting point is to work out or in the case maybe of a client, their true strengths and weaknesses, right? Not perceived strengths and weaknesses, but real strengths and weaknesses. What you really need to do is not manage yourself, but you got to manage your emotions. And Lord knows that I have paid a heavy price for lacking like the ability to manage my emotions in a difficult dynamic, difficult situation. And if you really think about it, it's a bit of a look. What I'm describing is a bit of a phenomenon of the modern world, right? Like in the 1800s, you didn't need to manage yourself because you didn't have that many choices, right? Like you were born at a certain level, and let's call that a peasant. You stayed a peasant. You were born a merchant, and then you stayed a merchant. Everything was kind of handed to you, and you had very little choice in the matter. And you just, you lived to about 40, and then you just died. We grew up assuming that people with big titles like MBA, the PhD doctor are the smartest of all, or that highly religious people are more honest than the average. And I would dare say, as you think about that, tell me, right? You know what I mean? Is somebody who's highly religious or highly spiritual more honest than the average bear? And what you may find, and you may not, but a lot of the time you will find that highly spiritual people, what they're really doing is, they use that as a bit of a way to maybe not be the most honest people. So just translation, the guy with the PhD, is he really the smartest person you know? And by the way, if somebody had a PhD and they were in business, I dare say that the report card of business is money. And when I go to the PhD and I look at his bank balance, you might find yourself a little bit disappointed, maybe is what I'm getting at there. Like here's an interesting point, right, Road Dog? Scientific research says that losses hurt about twice as much as the wins make you feel positive or feel good, right? Sucks, I know, right? But if you go to the casino and let's just say you have $100 and you turn it into 5,000 early in the night, and then you end up losing half of it later. It's like you end up with 20, you took $100 and you turned it into 2,500 after losing half of the 5 grand. You'll go home feeling crap, right? Your brain is basically fooled and forgets that you actually made like 2 grand plus, right? So what science would say about quote unquote managing yourself, or importantly, your clients managing themselves, and that's, if you're a coach, that's our goal. That's how you get paid. That's how you make a great income, is the better you get at, the more they pay you, the longer they stay with you, the more less you have to do lead generation, the more you get to do retention in the coaching, which is a good chance that's what you enjoy. Um, Here it is, like science would say this, that you don't know what your true strengths are. You think you know, but you're actually wrong. You're bad at identifying your own weaknesses. You're not using real feedback, quote unquote, like a feedback loop, um, and the results to learn the truth about yourself, right? So what do I say? Gut stands for what? Gave up thinking. So, like, self-assess the past. What have you always succeeded at, and what have you always failed at? Brutal honesty is required here. Then redirect all of your focus and energy into the things that you always succeed at, right? So don't try to change everything about yourself. It's too hard and horrifically ineffective. Stop the bad habits and improve and work on your natural strengths, right? So again, if you're a hockey player and you're good at putting the puck in the net, don't try to become a defenseman or a goalie, right? Like, work on your strengths. If you introduce me to a professional athlete, I'll introduce you to somebody who's really, really, really good at one thing. Yes, they're natural athletes and they're good at, you could say that, oh, they're good at this, they're good at that, they're good at everything. But at the end of the day, you make the NHL by being a natural goal scorer. You make the NHL by being a stay-at-home defenseman. You make the NHL. Do you know what I mean? Like, the strengths will get you there. The other stuff, um, is helpful, but the receiver isn't trying to be the quarterback, right? So don't try to turn your weaknesses into strengths, is what I'm saying. And you may think that um, you're weak at something, but it's actually just a bad habit. By the way, again, you think that you're weak at something, and it's actually a bad habit. An example, look, we're just talking about drinking, right? Like, so you think that you're lazy, but the real problem is that you drink 4 nights a week, right? And by the way, before you go to bed, right? Um, what would happen if somebody drinks little, you know what I mean? Let's just call it 4 drinks for the sake of the argument, 4 beers, 4 rums, whatever, before bed. By Thursday, how are they going to feel? And then do that for a month, do that for 3 months, do that for 12 months, do that for 3 years, and tell me if that person is going to be high energy. And the answer is maybe, but probably not, right? So brutal honesty and measurement of your daily activity would get you to the answer, right? But what's really important is that you don't know what your true strengths are, and you think you know, but you're usually wrong, right? Like, you're bad at identifying your own weaknesses. So that's what I'd say, Shoots.
Beauty, beauty. Can you give kind of a tangible example of all of this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Let's talk sport, right? Think pro football, hockey, baseball. Every passionate fan thinks their team has a real shot at winning it all, right? And do they? And the answer is that, you got 30 teams in the league. I got bad news for you, but one team is going to win, right? So people think that they're smarter than they are, and people think that, frankly, they're better looking than they are, right? Science would tell you that it's a delusion. It's like, the Malaysian flight 370 or whatever it was, right? It went straight down into the ocean years ago. But people with family on board were sure, like absolutely positive, that their loved ones are still alive. And anybody with any stoicism or any, looking at the situation could go, I don't think so. Or it's the mom of I was watching this crime show recently, like a documentary to do. It's the mom of a brutal criminal who despite the mountains of evidence, right? And frankly, a guilty verdict, which made it kind of hilarious. Well, not actually, it's nothing funny about it, but you know what I mean? Like, mountains of evidence. But then, the son is just like, the reason he went guilty is, pleaded guilty was just to get, the time so that he didn't have to spend his entire life behind bars. And mom is convinced that, he is innocent. Or Road Dog, you and I, there's a big thing going on with, if you follow ice hockey in Canada, a world junior team, and some kids are in some real trouble. 5 of them, and 2 of them I know well. And we, had them at my home, Road Dog, you've met them. And I got to tell you, these 2 kids, man, they are stand up, excellent kids. And I know nothing about nothing as far as it goes, but I can tell you I'm having a horrific time believing that, you know what I mean? That they, you know what I mean? I don't know. Am I falling into that? They are really stand up individuals. And again, I don't know. And my full sympathy to the victim. This is a very real situation and real time going on now. But I'm just like, my gosh, these kids are great. And if I was going to stand up for anybody, a couple of these kids that we know, I'd be right there. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Am I falling into that? Don't know. But I can tell you it's a horrific one. And my heart goes out to everybody, the families, the individuals, the victim. Anyway, I don't know. Look, if that's the reality, right? Like, what is the underlying issue, right? And I would tell you that, like, what science, what the top psychiatrists in the world would say is that it would be fear, right? Courage, and then what's the solution? It's courage, right? It can solve almost everything for you, or for your clients, or for your kids. If you see yourself or your clients in this, here's what I'd recommend. Every time you go to start something, okay? Again, and we're demonstrating courage here. Courage, if you fall into the trap of not being sure exactly your strengths, your weaknesses, how are you going to go about growing this 7-figure coaching company? I got to tell you, if you introduce me to somebody who's built a 7-figure coaching company, I'm going to show you a courageous individual, right? Again, I wrote an email not long ago, and I do this little hashtag now, and I'm like, make courage cool again, right? Like, courage is the solution, right? So you're going to start a diet. You're going to start a business. You're going to start a project. You're going to start a podcast. You're going to hire a new staff member for a real amount of money. You're going to do a local live event. You're going to do a Facebook ad campaign. Write down in detail what you expect to happen in, let's say, 3 months and 6 months. And then what I want you to do is I want you to calendarize it, right? I want you to put it in your calendar at 90 days and then calendarize it in 6 months, what you expected to have happened on that project, the podcast, the mastermind, the new staff member, the local live event. And I want you to revisit it in 90 days. And there's a good chance what you did is you stopped. And again, that isn't the least courageous thing you could do. Maybe the evidence dictated that it was time to stop, but it was never going to work. But I'm going to probably guess that if you planned it out properly, that's not the case. I don't think a diet is something you should quit, right? I don't think a podcast is something you should quit. I don't think your local live event is something you should quit. And use the feedback of the 90-day and the 6-month mark as a feedback loop to determine strengths, weaknesses, etc. Right? This sounds simple, but remember, your brain wants to trick you so what happens is you don't measure / acknowledge. You just change directions. You know what I mean? So again, your brain wants to trick you, right? So again, you stop the podcast and do the mastermind, then you stop the mastermind and do the live event, and then you stop the live event, and you do the Facebook campaign, and then you stop the Facebook campaign, and then you do, SEO, right? And it's just, by changing directions, that doesn't take courage. Remember, you're going to be remembered in life for what you refuse to give up on. And my question is, what do you refuse to give up on, right? So, and your brain will come up with remember, your brain, I said it earlier, but it's designed to fool you, lie to you. It'll come up with all kinds of creative excuses why it didn't work, right? The timing, the lack of money, the lack of experience, your age, too old, too young, your lack of energy, too much, too little, your skill set, what have you. And a real and harsh self-assessment would quickly determine a lack of leadership skills and passion and courage is what really stopped you, right? And personally, I've exercised blind trust rather than managing projects step by step. And therefore, again, as I reverse engineered, I was just lacking the management skills to follow through, and I didn't have the courage to go and then just deal with it head on, right? So, okay, so I right now, Road Dog, I'm defining the problem. And then if you were to turn that around, which is what I think you did, maybe I'm taking too long to get there. But the solution is you need to exercise courage and that no excuse mentality. Remember, you're going to be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. So do something you feel like is going to be worthy of following through on, calendarize it, and then go, right? Like in AA, I would say my dad's like the grand poobah of AA. He's been in AA for 52 years, and he still goes to a meeting every, like, not every single day, but almost every single. He would have gone to an AA meeting today, right? Um, and he's not going because he's scared of drinking again, right? Although he'll tell you his sobriety is his number one gift in this world, like over top of me and everything else. Um, so, AA is, the first step there is admitting that you're powerless over alcohol, right? You got to stand up and you got to say it in front of a group of people. That takes, in the moment. And if that's something you are totally owns you, which if you're an alcoholic, alcohol kind of owns you, right? That takes real courage. So what they will say in AA, what my dad has taught me over the years, is no change can come without admitting the absolute truth, right? And the trend is clearly to skip past and analyze the stage of diagnosing the weaknesses and the obvious cause and just try to patch up, the symptoms of your problems, right? Like that's the alcoholic saying sorry for the 30th time, or the drug addict saying sorry for the 30th time, or the cheating husband saying sorry for the X amount of time and not addressing the real and obvious weakness with courage, right? It's taking a Tylenol for your headache rather than realizing you're dehydrated from, the activities of last night, right? It's the doctor using prescription medication as a mask to the real issue, like diet, lack of exercise, lack of passion in life, lack of sleep, etc. So rather than accepting the blood pressure pills and maybe taking the blood pressure pills, it's okay, getting up, going for a walk, seeing the sunrise, to do. It's going back to acknowledging your true strengths and your true weaknesses, which quite frankly, you think that you're good at, but science would dictate, the data would dictate, the top, minds, the top mental, I don't want to call them psychiatrists because maybe they are, maybe they're not, but the top, people in the world that could take your activities and, give you a 20 questions and see your answer and the manner in which you ask them and self-diagnose you, they will tell you that you're bad at determining your own strengths, your own weaknesses. Translation, your coaching client is equally bad at it, right? So that is a good and a bad thing. It's bad if you don't acknowledge it, but it's good if you do because you can turn it around real quick. Quite frankly, I don't think it is that hard. But what I'm saying is your past failures weren't from lack of discipline or lack of willpower, but from the fact you were wrong about what you were good at, right? And your brain is designed for survival, right? It's designed to trick you. It's designed for survival. You got an inbuilt cognitive biases that make you overestimate your positive qualities and underestimate your negative ones, like I said a second ago. And again, I said earlier, people with their IQ, they think that they're smarter than they actually are. 80-20 is not an opinion, it's literally science. So Shoots, that is what I would say, my man. What do you think?
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, okay? And I'd like you to give me a practical business example of solving this. Like, can you do that? Is that possible?
Yeah. Okay, you got to go. The answer is you got to go 3 levels deep, right? Like, okay, so the business. Here's a conversation I had earlier. Somebody's talking about lacking leads, and I'm like, "Who have you hired to do lead generation for you?" And they, kind of looked at me through the Zoom call, and thought I had, you know what I mean? An alien speaking to them, like, "What? What do you mean?" Right? And they, they haven't done it, right? So if you haven't hired a lead generator, despite the fact that you need a lead generator, and then that would be effective, assuming that you're good at converting, you're good at the coaching, you have a real solution to a real problem, why would you not be willing to pay somebody a number of thousands of dollars to basically create coaching clients for you, right? Like that would be a good idea. But if I ask you why, you'd go one layer deep. And then the answer would be something like, no good people available. All the good ones are taken, or they want too much money, right? And I go, why? So I'd go one level deeper. Maybe the answer is that people work for things they believe in, and then when you interviewed them, they asked, how much were you paying? And then you told them, and that's where the discussion ended, right? Well, why, right? Um, you didn't present. Here's what I would do, and this is what I do, and I've hired lots and lots and lots of people. No matter what they ask me, the same when somebody calls and asks me the price, do I give them the answer? And the answer is a hard no, because we're nowhere near at that point, right? So what I got to do is talk about, the benefits of my thing and what they're going to get out of it, and ask them some questions. Well, why did you phone? What do you want? Why do you want to buy the thing, right? Like I don't have enough information to give them that answer. Well, the same goes when I'm looking to hire somebody, where I start, no matter what they ask, how much are you paying? And by the way, if they ask how much I'm paying too early, this is, and given the industry that we're in and what we do, we're solving problems, we're saving lives, divorces, separations, et cetera. As the kind of that's really what a business coach does, and I'm very, very passionate about that. So that's what I'm going to talk about, right? So when you talk to the lead generator, do you talk about how much you're going to pay them too early? It's a really good chance you do. And what I would do, and what I have done, and what I do is that I talk about the vision for my company and the positive influence it's going to have on local businesses and the community. And that's why you can't attract the team of people or the individual person willing, to do business with you, or to work with you, or to work for you for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and pick up the phone and, fill your events and do what you got to do, right? Because you answered the question, and what you really need to do is talk about why. And by the way, this is the same process for a joint venture, right? If you can't get a joint venture on board, ask 3 times and go 3 layers deep, like I just did, and see what happens. You'll find that the fundamental business flaw as your weakness that you haven't diagnosed, didn't have the courage to go there, right? You stayed surface level, um, and you know what I mean. Like when you're talking, do you have a big picture for your business? Have you taken a step to stop, look, you know what I mean? Really look at it holistically. Really talk to business owner. Really ask questions. And understand their pain points and the issues. Like that's how I say, like people think that we're doing business coaching, and I'm saying we're like ambulance drivers saving lives, right? Because I absolutely know that to be not my opinion, but to be absolute fact, right? Like, and again, it's not just from the suicide, but it's the kids, and it's the divorce, and it's the separation, and it's the 2 houses, and it's stepmommy and stepdaddy and all that sort of thing. Like that's what we're actually doing. And I believe that that's what you should be talking to the lead generator about, right? And that's what you should be talking potential. And by the way, maybe that's not your opinion. Maybe that's not your story. Maybe that's not your belief. But what is it? What is that bigger picture for you? And I think that's what you should be talking about. Or maybe your issue is that you jump from thing to thing. Like you just, like how many people do you know that the first sign of headache or not enough income to do, they go and they change careers, right? And we all know that individual, right? How many people go into real estate because it's like their destiny, and then they don't make any money in the first, you know what I mean? And 6 months into it, they're not making any money. And what do? They just jump ship to something else, which by the way is not necessarily the worst idea, because being a realtor there is no recurring revenue. So, won't go down that track, but that's, you got to assess. Do you have the ability to assess a good business model, by the way? And if you can't assess a good business model, then you got to have a look at your coaching and consulting and do a little bit of homework. You got to educate yourself there. Or maybe again, like, if somebody is a bad payer, right? Legit bad payer, what do you think that they attract? And this might sound like Jedi mind tricks or like Harry Fairy. I'm going to tell you with 100% certainty, if you were a bad payer, you attract bad payers, right? And again, just misdiagnose the problem, and then say it's the other person's fault. Like again, that person just wanted more money, and the truth is they wanted to really be able to they couldn't really get behind what it is that for that amount of money, there was going to need to be a high level of passion, and you failed to demonstrate the high level of passion when you spoke to the JV, when you spoke to the lead generator, when you spoke to somebody who was blind, and they wanted to pick up the phone on behalf of somebody's business, and they decided to do it for the mortgage broker or the realtor or the other business coach or the digital marketer instead of you. But I'm going to say that the problem wasn't that they wanted more money. It's that you didn't demonstrate, a vision and talk about your vision, and maybe some of the others did, right? Or that was the thing that was going to get them to say, you know what, this one feels really, really good. This is the individual that I want to work with. So, and look, just one more thing here. No, what I'm talking about is could we call that being a good salesperson, being able to demonstrate or to describe that vision in a powerful way, right? That would be the kind of person that would be good at sales. But what most people would say is that sales is about talking smoothly, right? The silver tongue sales guy. See, good sales is not about talking smoothly. It is with 100% certainty what? 2 ears, 1 mouth. It's about listening, right? It's taking meaningful notes. It's following up. It's really, really caring, right? So focus on so look, let's bring this back. Shoots. I'm going possibly down that rabbit hole. But one, focus on strengths. And if you lack in an important area, find a partner, right? So if you suck at generating leads, find somebody to generate leads for you, or do a joint venture relationship with a large joint venture partner, right? So number one, focus on your strengths. And again, so, if you're really bad at coaching, hire a coach. If you're really bad at generating leads, hire a lead generator, right? So let's go. So let's assume that's one, focus on strength. Two, build on your strengths and reach world class, which again, the person who jumps from one thing to the other thing to the other thing, this is what they completely miss, is that the world class individuals do not lack leads. They do not lack clients. They do not have a shortage of money coming their way, right? So if you want to get a joint venture partner, become world class. You want to get a good person to come on board and sell for you and join forces with you, become world class. Right. So maybe the real problem is that you haven't done enough work on your actual coaching, your actual consulting, your actual thing. Okay. And then 3 would be, you got to stop using ignorance as an excuse, right? Like, I'm not a people person. I've been overweight my entire life. I just can't cold call. Just no, and no. Again, that's the story. It's conversation in between your ears. Next, it would be like address bad habits, right? People confuse weaknesses for bad habits, and sometimes a perceived weakness is a strength, right? So you lack energy, but it's really that you're drinking every night, like I was talking about earlier, so you lack sleep. So then it's the drinking that stops the energy, not you, right? Do you know what I mean? Start going to the gym in the morning instead of drinking at nighttime. And then what happens to your energy level? And you might just find that low energy individual becomes high energy. And then the last one, and I'm going to throw it back to you here, Shoots. Avoid doing tasks that are weaknesses, right? So if you're disorganized but amazing at sales, or hire somebody who's organized to be your assistant. And you know what I mean? Go straight into, jumping on the phone and doing the talking, right? So again, just, you don't know what your true strengths are, and you think you know, but you're normally wrong, right? So again, that's what I would say, Shoots. So look, there's an example. A few of them.
I love it. The one thing I will quickly add before I wrap here is just the story component, and being able to sell people on that compelling vision that you have, the story that you have. Yep. I honestly, truly believe that the reason you lack a compelling story, and the reason you lack in your life in terms of, be it attracting clients, getting all that stuff, is I think what you're really lacking is clarity on what the problem that you're actually solving. Because if you truly knew what problem you were solving for somebody and you were passionate about it, it's going to happen, right? Like, I talk to you about business coaches, there's not a doubt in my mind, right? It's just, you can tell, and you're not selling me, you're telling me, right? Like, I think that's the primary difference there. So,
okay, can I look? Can we make this my one thing here? Okay,
Yes.
so my one. I'm going to preempt your question. So the number one thing that you can have, and what Road Dogg just said, is you get like, okay. So actually, before I answer this, I want you to think of somebody who you followed for a period of time, and maybe it's Zig Ziglar, and maybe it's Jim Rohn, and maybe it's Tony Robbins, and maybe it's Carl Jung, and maybe it's whoever it is, right? Your guy, right? That really Frank Kern, whoever. The one thing that if you follow them, they don't lack, and that is confidence, or their superpower is confidence. They say things with a level of confidence and a surety, even when, quite frankly, they are not that sure, right? Like the professors at Harvard, they are not as certain as you would like to think they are. The students at Harvard spend a lot of time in uncertainty and just wondering, but your perception is that, oh my God, they got it all worked out, right? And that is just not the case from my experience. So yeah, that confidence, man, is critical. If you're going to deliver your vision, you need to do it in a confident, you know what I mean? And no doubt that's self-explanatory. Super confident, man. Super confident. So there you go.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that's it. You stole my one thing, so that's amazing. So thanks, everybody, for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the king of the Caribbean himself, King Carl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, you aren't getting Carl's daily emails, you just generally want to learn more about how to build, scale, grow your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with fellow business coaches or people that you think might make great coaches. And of course, we'd appreciate, as always, if you would rate the episode as well. And that is it for another week. And as I always say, remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Carl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.